Hi everyone, Tom was here, and we're doing something a little bit different on the Tom Was Here Halloween Haunts channel. Not really something a little different, I guess you could say. It is kind of similar to what we've done in the past, but this time we're actually making a full commitment to this, even if we miss out on Halloween season on most of these. But I am going to do an official longer form discussion, not really review, because I'm not a haunt reviewer, but more just like talking a little bit more fleshed out than I do in the standard haunted house walkthrough videos, because they're long enough as it is. I used to do like a more detailed breakdown of all my experiences while also showing off a haunted house walkthrough, and almost every haunt video was like an hour long. And based on what I've seen, and based on really just in general, you're not going to stick around for an hour-long video. Most people don't stick around for long-form videos. Sometimes people want to see what the haunt looks like, but they won't really care or want to break down my views on the haunt beyond that, or maybe they want to experience it for themselves. But this video here is specifically for that. It's to break down my longer formed opinions and views of haunts that we go through, talk a little bit more fleshed out than kind of the standard quick recap that I do. Just want to explain it, a bit more about my opinions and what I could, and also provide something I rarely provide on any of these things, any small critiques or criticisms that I point out in a haunt, because as mentioned, like I said, I'm not a haunt reviewer. I'm not going to give you a graded score. These are your babies after all. You invest time, you invest money, you invest effort, you invest years of your life in certain circumstances to these, and for me, coming out of left field as just somebody that walks through haunts just to nitpick everything you do is just silly. But I will provide in almost all of these, in all of these, I'm going to provide at least some form of criticism or something that I thought of offhand, or maybe something I felt should be improved on. And whether or not that becomes anything or not, I'm just a guy. It's not likely. But we are going to talk today about Portals of Fear. Now, Portals of Fear, I did kind of, because I had left Portals of Fear when doing the official walkthrough at like 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m., something like that. When I did the breakdown, I kept like tripping over words, and I wasn't really like conveying exactly all the stuff I wanted to convey. So as such, I did talk a little bit about Portals of Fear in depth, but not really to this extent. So we're going to break down a little bit more about Portals of Fear on this review. Let's call it a haunt discussion, I guess you could say, about Portals of Fear on the Tom Was Here Halloween Haunts channel right now. Well, I said right now, and then I did the intro to my channel, but what? You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Portals of Fear, and I did something I rarely do as well, because I tend to ramble, and then sometimes I get an idea for something I wanted to say, and that leads me down a different path, and then I didn't get back to my original idea. So we are going to talk, and I actually have a sheet, I actually put like a little notes down and things like that. So one thing about Portals of Fear that's unique versus other haunts that I've been to this Halloween season, especially in the year 2025, is I went through Portals of Fear twice in 2025. One with their opening night, and I went through and I was able to, I didn't film a ton of it. I was only able to film one small section of it, so I got to take in a lot of the experience. But as Portals of Fear completely revamped from a charity haunt 2 years ago, a lot of it was new and different and surprising and all types of different thoughts that went into that. So as such, while I was able to kind of take in the whole experience, anything that's new you're experiencing for the first time, you're not going to see everything and you're not going to take in everything. You're just kind of in the moment, and this and that, and this will stand out and that'll stand out. But having gone through the second time while filming, I was able to go back and watch some of the footage and see some certain things, and did want to point out some things. So for what's considered a first-year professional haunt, let's talk a little bit about, kind of the sets they have in there. And the one that impressed me far more than most, and when I say most, I don't mean necessarily most out of Portals of Fear, I mean most out of anywhere that I've been this haunt season, is the kind of the the city area. Portals of Fear has kind of like a street scene that extends to a convenience store and then an alleyway into a body shop, and all of those connected areas, and even to there's like a storage unit after that. All those connected areas are so well done. I mean, when you have a situation where, you walk into, say, like a city street and there's a bum. Is that fair to say? Like, a bum. There's someone that's out in the street kind of spouting nonsense about that he's coming and they're going to do this, and that, there's this, the end of the world type, crazy things that only a insane person walking the street. But in between that, there's like shops, and there's a newspaper stand, and there's a shopping cart, and it's a whole vibe in there. And then you walk into the convenience store, and it's stocked with products. There's cigarettes, there's energy drinks, there's, all types of different stuff that a convenience store has. Then there's the alleyway, and it feels like an alleyway. And keep in mind, this is a Catholic school. I talk a lot on the channel about immersion. I mentioned, and when I say channel, I mean my main TomWasHere channel, not necessarily this Halloween Haunts channel. Something I'm trying to get off the ground as a secondary channel because I love haunts and I love dedicating stuff to them. But with immersion factor, you want to be in a situation where if it's a scene that doesn't coincide with the building you're in. So like in this case, we're in a former Catholic schoolhouse. At the moment we walk through to the street scene, the convenience store, the alleyway, my brain, similar to VR, will trick you into not realizing you're in a Catholic schoolhouse. You're in the moment, you're in the scene, and that's one of the highest praises you can give a haunted house, is that if you're able to trick yourself into that you're in this world, that's part of the immersion factor that you want out of any haunted house. And that is what Portals of Fear is doing in several scenes. They have a few different ones that are so detailed and fleshed out that you get lost in them. As much as I like the store and alley, it's probably my favorite part of their haunt too. Things like the cemetery that they have, and then the cabin on the second floor that they have, are three major set pieces that are so well done as far as set design and themed wise that you get lost in the moment in those sections. And that's great. That's great. That's definitely something that you want in a haunted house, is to add to that level of immersion. And that's without any of the actors. So without any of the actors, which is a testament, because in some cases certain haunts are actors driven and certain haunts are kind of set piece driven, and Portals has a nice balance of both. But without even including the actors in those areas, the set design in the store and alley, in the cemetery, in the cabin are very, very well done. Just feeling like you're in these places is truly an impressive feat, no doubt. And clearly considerable time and effort was made to make this look like this. And I think they did a really good job in doing that, because it adds to the overall experience as a whole. So not just beyond that, then we'll get into, say, the actors. And if there was an MVP of acting, and you may know this if you have keeping up with my Portals of Fear content, if you watched the second Portal walkthrough on this channel, the TomWasHere Halloween Haunts channel, if you watched my main walkthrough that didn't include the basement on the standard channel, you may have noticed that the same actress was in both thumbnails. And two reasons for that. One, she's very well lit. She pauses. If you're watching this and you're like, man, how can I be in a TomWasHere thumbnail for one of my walkthroughs? Pause. While you're in the middle of your performance, just do a quick... You don't have to be one of those people. And admittedly, this is one that, unless you're like a first-year person that works as a scare actor and you're trying to ease your way into it, is a slight pet peeve, I guess you could say. It's the person that when you're in a room and they just stare at you. Now, sometimes that's effective. Sometimes it's effective. But when you've been through as many haunts as I've been through, when you just have someone and they just stare at you, they don't do anything. They're just staring at you, and they have a look, and sometimes it works, a lot of times it doesn't. But if you're in the mid-performance, or you're mid saying something, or you're mid trying to get your words out and stuff like that, if you just do a quick... I'm not saying you have to do this on my account. I'm saying you have to do this naturally. She did it naturally. She didn't do it because she knew, oh, this guy, this random person that I don't know or maybe do is going to put me on a thumbnail. No. This was part of her performance. And you can do this effectively. I know several people that do it. So in different haunts, including and also in this haunt. She conveyed an acting performance rarely seen in any haunts anywhere that I've ever seen. Because I mentioned this in the original Portals of Fear review. When you are a haunt actor, you don't get a ton of time to convey your presence. Like I said, for all the work that goes into makeup, costuming, all that stuff, you might get at max 20 seconds. And at bare minimum, 5 to 10. It is a quick in and out approach. So she is in a situation where she is doing like a human sacrifice, I guess you could say. It's like a ritual type room. And as much as I didn't say the set design was good on that as a ritual type room, it is, and it's fleshed out and it looks like a ritual type room, but it doesn't have the same, at least based on what I saw, because it is darker, like a level of detail as the other ones. The other thing, and I should mention this, sorry, before I get on a tangent on her, is the reason why she's in the thumbnail is not just because her performance is really good, it's not just because she posed, it's also because she's a very well lit. The one thing about haunted houses is that the vast majority of them are dark, and if you have a scene or a scenario or something like that where a spotlight's on you, good chance you're going to probably in the thumbnail, because the idea is I want someone to be fairly brightly lit in mostly a dark haunted house, and Portals of Fear is definitely a brighter haunted house than most, so that's the benefit of her to do that. But also she's in a section where she's well lit, she poses, she hits all the check boxes. But her performance, I do want to get into, was so well done from an acting perspective. As someone who studied acting, who wanted to be an actor, who wanted to be a screenwriter, who watched a boatload of movies, who've seen live performances and do all this stuff, the one thing I enjoyed about her performance more than most is that she, she's completely going for it. And I've watched this now twice, because I went through Portals of Fear twice. And it was done slightly different, both different ways. She's not swayed by what you say or do. She doesn't matter that I'm giggling my way throughout her performance, because she's dialed in. She's locked in. And the second time around versus the first time, when she has the heart that she pulls out and then, kind of almost like a sponge, and she hits it and sprays water over everybody, that's going to generate a reaction from a group. Now, in some cases, as a scare actor, that can break you out of such a thing because you're reacting to someone's thing. Or in some cases, I'll do this for fun. Not that rarely many people have actually broke during this, but I will say something to an actor, or maybe ask them a question that they were not prepared or expected for. And it doesn't matter what the reaction is to her. She got her performance of what she's doing, and she is going to hammer it home. The thing I like personally the most about her is that, so she's speaking this thing and this ritual, and that this their master or whatever is coming, and you got to be prepared, and you're worthless, you're a worthless wretch, and all this stuff. And there's a point. And I saw this now twice, I believe. And there's a point where she is like over the top, and she's doing this all, and then you see a reaction on her face that I guess you could say, like what crazy people have is a moment of clarity, where she almost realizes how maniacal, like, it's starting to happen. Like, there's almost like a helplessness. Like, she realizes how maniacal that this is going, and then she just, boom, goes a step further. And that's impressive to me. I really enjoyed what she did there. I thought she did a great job. It's definitely probably one of, if not the best acting performance I've seen at a haunted house in many years. Because most haunted houses don't give you kind of like this longer scene. There's sometimes a collection of like smaller scenes, and there's certainly things with the smaller scenes that can be effective, and there's certainly actors that are effective at doing it, but not really to the level that she did it, if that's fair to say. So she's my MVP of this, but there are actually several other candidates that have kind of these longer, longer performance type things. In the cabin, there's the girl that has, is talking about the dolls, where she's, it's something that I've seen in haunted houses before, where, she wants you to play, she wants you to be her friend, but then she goes into the thing where she goes like, but don't! And then suddenly this angry voice comes out of this girl. Then she's like, don't touch the dolls! And then she goes, after that, we can have fun. And it's just like, there's this demanding like thing, and there's just a change, that quick change like that, where you can go from being super angry to then being super friendly, is impressive. Like I said, they have a couple different instances where there are these acting performances that are really good. The other one that stood out to me, the girls in the cemetery, which did a pretty good job, where they're crying. Keep in mind, you have to do this for hours. So the girl in the human sacrifice room, or the one that's yelling full throat angry, or the one that's, has to cry and then scream and all that stuff for 4+ hours an evening, sometimes 3 days a week, your Friday, your Saturday, your Sunday shows. I mean, a lot of effort's made, but like, the cemetery girls, they're crying. The one girl's upset that she got buried alive. They're putting forth great effort here. And the last one I will mention beyond, and there's other ones too, so don't feel bad if I don't mention it, but there's other ones that are great too, is the mother that was in the second floor, where she, kind of like a demon-possessed mother figure type thing, who got, members of my group to bow, and they weren't respecting her enough, so she made them bow. And like I said, they have good performances that they put out on a given evening, and something where you have to overly commit. You have to commit to these certain things, and it's not something that is easy, or it's something that takes effort, and that's what you want on a haunted house, is something that takes a considerable amount of effort, whether your performance is physical, whether it's demanding, whether it's that, just want to see that you put an effort out there to attempt to scare, to attempt to entertain, and the one thing I could say about Portals is that they don't give me an option necessarily to say, like, ask a question or ad-lib or interact with certain characters, and that's fine too. I'm not saying I couldn't. I'm just saying I would have to shoehorn it in, because generally the performances are so good that you don't necessarily have to ask them questions. Not that having to ask them questions, not that having to ask an actor questions is a bad thing, because sometimes a performance is good and it dictates asking a question, or they might say something off and it hits your brain a certain way, and you're like, you have to respond to that. So it's something certainly that I feel Portals does really effective between the set design and the actors, adds to the immersion of the experience. It makes it a great experience overall, and definitely one you should check out during the season. Now, as this is a first-year professional haunt, there are certainly things that are not quite fleshed out as of yet, but it's a work in progress. And I've been to haunts that have been open longer, and they're still the same work in progress there. And that is kind of like their outdoor area of what they have at Portals. Now, there's certainly strides that they're making there. I've been through Portals a couple separate times, and the first night they had a bunch of different vendors there, kind of peddling different things. They had a tarot card reader, which I regret I did not interact with. I would have loved to have done that for the channel and did like a tarot card reading, tarot card reading, my apologies. And then they do have like the food truck up there, and then they have a cookie vendor, Lace for Love, amazing cookies, that was really good. And they do have some scare actors roaming around in the outdoor area, which is appreciated. It adds to the overall thing. They work the line, but they also work the areas you know, kind of like where the vendors are, food truck, kind of the tables that you're set up for food. And I do like Portals of Beer. Obviously, Portals of Fear is the haunted house. Portals of Beer is their beer tent. And so I do like that they have that as well. Obviously, there are things that they're going to adjust and improve upon, you know, as the seasons go on, to add more vendors and more interesting things to kind of keep you there for a period of time. But I feel like they made good progress in their first year. One thing that we did not experience, but we did see as part of kind of the behind the scenes tour, and I mentioned it in the main video, is that there's a VIP room that you can rent out for an hour at a time, that has their own concierge and snacks and drinks, and a unique element that, like I said, I've never seen at any other haunted house. It's definitely something that adds to the overall experience at Portals, and I think it's something that is worth checking out should you have a group that is willing to put forth the cash to do so. I think it's a fun experience overall, and I think it's something that you enjoy. I would like to do it. I didn't actually get a chance to do it myself, but I would like to see how that works and to do it myself, because I thought it was really cool. Now, the last section of this is if there's any improvements or criticisms that I personally have. And it's tough with Portals of Fear as being a first-year professional haunt. And like I said, I rarely criticize or critique, but I have noticed that not just at Portals, but at other haunts in the area, that they've asked, you know, things that I liked, things that I didn't like, things that I would suggest. And Portals of Fear is one of the rare few haunts where they actually asked me a suggestion 2 years ago when they were charity haunt, and they implemented it as their first year as a professional haunt. At least, yeah, I'm not going to take full credit. You know, maybe it was someone else that said something too, but you know, if it was just me, you know, all the more impressive. So if I had to give an improvement or criticism, I would say that while each floor of Portals of Fear has what you would call like a bigger set piece, say the alleyway, the ritual room, the cemetery, all are on the kind of the main floor. The cabin is on the second floor. What is really does not have like a really like a fleshed out set piece, and this could be a logistical nightmare, to be honest with you. I don't know the logistics, and I can't, you know, who am I to tell you what works and what doesn't. But like the basement, in my opinion, doesn't have kind of the same set piece that the larger, you know, sections do. And like I said, that may be a logistical thing. That may be something where they can't get something down in the basement like that, and understandably so if that's the case. But the other thing that I would say is that when you're turning the corner to hit the exit, you run into like Portals of Fear's big bad, like their lead kind of focused devil, giant demon character, I guess you could say. The one that is their kind of their main legacy character that came through from the charity haunt. And in that circumstance, I think there should be kind of a build-up or a run-up to that specific character. Almost like, maybe not necessarily you can see them off in a distance, but that like there's a little bit more of an entrance or some style thing. Because the way it stands currently at Portals, as you're turning the corner, they're kind of like on a stage, but you can see the stage from the corner, so you can see the character there. But if there was something blocking that area, and then he eventually came through, almost like an entrance to his character, or like an appearance to this character, that for me would be something that I would say would be like a, a nitpicky criticism, a nitpicky one, is to just kind of do more with the basement and have more of a run up or build up to that lead character, because that's, you know, kind of what you want. The other thing that I would say, and then once again, a minor criticism, and I just noticed it in the video, I didn't really notice it in my experience, and videos does have an ability to kind of convey or things, you know, not exactly the true, as much as it shows the performance, you know, it's not the same as like being there. But like in the start run up when you're doing the DIU stuff, and by the way, if there's another knock too, a slight knock, once again, these are like minor nitpicks. So the DIU, I love the DIU storyline. The idea is that you're an agent with the government. The government, of course, doesn't know what the hell they're getting themselves into, and so they recruit you as the person to then take over for their investigation. And there's a few instances very early on, and in the second floor was a nice touch as well, where you see several of your agents, like in this case, walking through the main corridor. You had people in like hazmat suits, as say like agents of the DIU that are tied up and kind of hidden this way. And I'll be honest, I don't think, and I could be wrong because it was only a week apart, but I don't think any of them were alive the first time I walked through, and they were definitely alive the second time I walked through. But I could be wrong on that, because I can't remember offhand. But after the second floor and the one agent that's tied up, I didn't see any more real references to the DIU. Personally, for me, something where there was like maybe like a DIU body that's like hanging, you know, like maybe like tied up or like, you know, on a wall or something like high up that's like in each staircase would kind of hammer home the DIU storyline a little bit more, where there was more fleshed out. Now, I'll be the first to tell you I'm not super observant, and there could be a chance that more DIU references are there in the rest of the haunt, but I'm just going based off what I have seen. If there was a little bit more fleshed out on the DIU story, and also the introduction briefing slightly louder. Now, I am generally someone that doesn't hear very well, so maybe it's loud, maybe it's too loud to some, but for me, I was like, there's certain parts I couldn't really hear too well as well, but that's really my knocks on that. If you could do more with the DIU story to like flesh it out beyond, say, like some bodies, say on the second floor, just kind of hammer home that you're an official DIU agent on official government business, and you stumble into these multitude of portals of various dimensions of fear, I guess you could say. But it would be cool to see, you know, that maybe like some of the other agents made it the same path that you did, but they just didn't make it all the way. Is that fair to say? I think that's fair to say. But that's like criticisms, gripes. For a first-year professional haunt may not be super fair, but it's certainly just ones that I decide, you know, I was like, you know, those are things that would be cool to see for future references, to see them fleshed out a little bit more. But let me know your thoughts on Portals of Fear. Was it something you stopped by this season? I know there's been a lot of buzz about it. There's a lot of people talking about it. There's certainly a lot of people that are opening their eyes to Portals of Fear. So if it's something that, you know, and I've ran into people where, you know, they ask what kind of what haunts that you visited this season you enjoyed, and I rattled off a few of my favorites, but generally I included Portals of Fear because I was that impressed by the show. And when I mentioned that to them, more than a few were like, oh, what's that? Like, I'm not sure what that is. And that's kind of understandable for a first-year professional haunt. They don't have the same name that goes along with, you know, some of the haunts you know in the area as well. And understandably so, as being their first year. But I think it's something that over the years now, you're going to see that name keep popping up, and then eventually you're going to have to go check it out for yourself, and you're going to see what I saw, what you saw in the video if you watched, and what almost everybody else saw, is that they're putting on a hell of a show there. They're you know, it's something that obviously they're not going to rest on their laurels. I've talked with them in great detail, and they're not going to rest. Their, you know, changes will be made, and adjustments will be made, and they seem to be open to that more than most, because there's a hierarchy at certain haunts, and certain haunts like to be, you know, the exact same way, and certain haunts love to change it up and you know, make major improvements every year, much to their own, much against their own time, effort, reasoning, all that stuff. They want to press on and make something different and unique, and I think Portals of Fear is no different. And they put together a crew of, like I said, some of my favorite people in haunts. Micah, that I've known for years, and John and Chuck and the team, and you know, all the actors there that have welcomed me and opened up the channel. You know, people I can talk to for hours on end about all types of different stuff. So very kind of Portals of Fear to have me out and continuing to have me out. I'm hoping that we can set up something for like a behind the scenes interview type thing here soon. But Portals of Fear, highly recommended on the channel. I'm not going to give it some rating system. As mentioned, I am not a haunt reviewer. This is more like a discussion overall. But let me know your thoughts on Portals of Fear. For me personally, I do think this is a must-stop on your haunt season. Obviously, we're dwindling down on our haunt season, but by the time this comes out, there'll be a weekend or two left. You can go check it out, and I highly recommend you do so. But that'll do it for Portals of Fear, this haunt discussion. This is something I'm going to be doing with every haunt I visit this season, even though a lot of these videos are going to come out probably after haunt season. I only have so much time between this channel and the other channel, but I want to get this other dedicated haunt channel off the ground because, you know, I like haunts and I like putting time and effort into those. But guys, thanks so much for watching. If you're new here, make sure to like, share, subscribe. You can support me on Patreon like John Bailey, like Brett Persing, like Faye Ann. You can do so. Link is in the description below. If you'd like to buy a t-shirt, including the TomWasHere Halloween Haunts shirt, you can do so at Spreadshirt, as well as links to my eBay store, Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok, whatnot, Arena Club. Links are in the description below. But Portals of Fear is now in the books for the 2025 season, and we've discussed it in great detail. And you can watch the main walkthrough on the main walkthrough without the basement, I will say, on the TomWasHere main channel. I will include a link in the description below. And guys, thanks for watching, and let me know your thoughts on Portals of Fear.